Hi YouTube, this is DarkGod633 and we're taking a look at Batman from the Suicide Squad line. Now this is the final figure in the first wave of the DC Multiverse line for the Suicide Squad. In my opinion, this is the strongest figure in the wave. And not by the sense of the figure itself, but the fact that it has the most accessories and the most appropriate accessories that we've gotten in this wave so far. Now, unfortunately for those who got the Batman vs. Superman version, from what I could tell, there isn't a whole lot of difference you're going to get here outside of the new accessories, so unfortunately if you did get the other figure, you're going to have to double dip if you want to get the piece to Killer Croc. Another problem is that unfortunately he includes one of the most important components of Killer Croc, which we'll get to when we look at the box once again. Anyways, we'll start by going to the box directly first. There's a picture of Batman with the breathing mask on, and unlike the other figures, he has the old-style Suicide Squad logo before they went ahead and changed how the movie was going to be like. So it's kind of interesting that this figure actually has the original logo instead of the more colorful one we used to. Once again, it shows the promotions on the back, and it's actually interesting this time since I actually didn't mention this prior. Usually when it came to the Multiverse figures, they don't usually show everything right off the bat, at least for what I remember, especially how they were releasing the older waves. But it's cool that all of them are actually shown here. And this is where it becomes problematic, since Batman, unfortunately, includes the main component, which is the main body. Now, for those, as I mentioned earlier, that got the Batman vs. Superman Batman, unless you wanted to get the part singly on the secondary market, this is the best way to get the main body, and the only way to get the main body of Killer Croc. Anyways, we'll now take a look at Batman first before we look at the accessories. This is, I guess, okay likeness once again of Ben Affleck, but since it is mostly covered by the cowl, there isn't a whole lot you're going to see here in terms of likeness. Articulation, head can swivel, and can look a little bit up and down, but not by a whole lot, but it's a lot better than what we've seen with the other figures. Ball joints at the shoulders, which are really tight. So tight that it's kind of scary to move them. Swivels at the biceps. Single joints at the elbows. Swivels at the wrists, and once again, no ball hinges or anything there. He does maintain a waist articulation. Pretty decent ab crunch, but it just seems like a lot of the characters are pretty bulky this time, so you're not going to get a whole lot there. Hinges at the waist, which can work really nicely outward. Can also bend forward and back really nicely. Swivels at the upper part of the knee. Single joint at the knee. And he does have some ankle articulation, but no side by side. Articulation-wise, it's still pretty decent, and I think this is a pretty good figure, actually, overall. Even if you're not a big fan of Batfleck. Accessory-wise, this is where the figure shines the most. The head can be removed, and underneath it is the standard ball joint, but as you can see, while it does have a little bit of give, there isn't a whole lot of movement you're going to get just by the way the heads are designed. And you can attach the breathing mask head, which can be a little bit tricky because the ball joint has two different sizes for some reason. This one's a little bit easier to put on, while for some reason the ball joint, at least on mine, for my standard head, is a little smaller than the one with the breathing mask, which is weird. He does have these handcuffs, which unfortunately, while they work pretty decently putting on one hand, this is where it has a problem. Since the figures don't have enough articulation, you can't exactly bend the arms into a position well enough to put them together. So that's a huge shame, actually, that it just doesn't have the amount of articulation enough to use that properly. You can probably attach it to two characters, but it's definitely not going to work with one character being cuffed. He has these really small batarangs. It seems to be a running trend for this Batman, since a lot of his accessories are just way too small to be accurate. As you can see, it does fit decently in the hand, and it comes with 3 of them. He comes with this smoke bomb canister. At least that's what I could tell what it is. And I guess it could fit pretty decently there. That doesn't have to be the biggest, so that's okay. And unfortunately, the worst part of it is the grapnel gun. Now the grapnel gun, while it's pretty decently molded and there isn't a whole lot of details missing, it's just way too small, especially when you put it in Batman's hand. Fits in nicely enough so that it won't fly out, but the grapnel gun itself, though, is just way too small. This is almost like scaled for almost like smaller figures, maybe like a 4-inch or something, but for a 6-inch figure, I'm actually quite astonished what Matty was thinking when it came to this scale of the grapnel blaster, and I think that's a real shame since I really like the design of the grapnel blaster that Batman uses in the film. So overall, this is a pretty decent release, and unfortunately it is the easiest way to get a hold of the body, unless you want to go ahead and get the body for Killer Croc by other means, but the mold itself is pretty decent actually, and I think this is a pretty decent Batman in general. So I highly recommend picking this up, especially if you're a fan of the Batfleck, or just wanting it for the part for Killer Croc. Anyways, please comment and subscribe, and check out Hero Taco and Hero Club. Please check me on Twitter, Darkon633, and don't forget to comment and subscribe, and I'll be back with another Suicide Squad review. But for now, I'll be seeing you YouTube. Bye.